The Young and the Restless spoilers web of deceit, Summer's machinations and the price of betrayal in the intricate and unforgiving world of high-stakes relationships, where every whispered secret has the power to shatter alliances and every betrayal reverberates like a thunderclap, a new scandal was poised to unravel. At the center of this storm stood Kyle, a man whose heart, despite its hardened exterior, was held hostage by his greatest vulnerability, his son, Harrison. And at the periphery of this delicate balance lurked Summer, a cunning and relentless woman, whose ambition and thirst for control propelled her to orchestrate a scheme that would forever alter the lives of everyone involved. Summer's relentless pursuit. Summer had long been recognized for her shrewd mind and unyielding determination. To those who knew her, she was no stranger to manipulation or to playing the long game. Her desire was singular and fierce, to reclaim Kyle's affections and restore the closeness they once shared. Once united by passion and mutual understanding, their past had dissolved into a bittersweet memory, a love that had faded without leaving any lasting consequence. Yet Summer refused to let the embers of their history die quietly. With every calculated move and every whispered insinuation, she sought to dismantle the walls that now separated them. Determined to regain Kyle's undivided attention, Summer was willing to cross any moral boundary. In her eyes, Kyle was not just a man, he was the prize she had lost, and the cost of reclaiming him was one she was prepared to pay in full. Every secret, every lie, and every carefully staged revelation was part of her grand design. But in the intricate web she was weaving, one secret in particular lay dormant, a secret that would become the fulcrum of a scandal too immense to ignore. Kyle's vulnerable heart and Harrison's reign. Kyle's life had become an endless cycle of battles between duty and desire. His love for Harrison was both his strength and his fatal flaw. Harrison, the young man who had grown into a figure of both admiration and exasperation in Kyle's life, wielded an unusual power over him. For Kyle, every relationship was at the mercy of Harrison's whims. Whether it was the choice of a friend, a partner, or even a fleeting infatuation, Harrison's approval was the golden decree. If the boy did not like someone, that person was swiftly cast aside, leaving behind a trail of broken bonds and shattered hopes. On the surface, Harrison exuded the charm and innocence of youth, a smile that could light up the darkest corners and a presence that softened even the most hardened hearts. Yet beneath that seemingly benign exterior lurked a complexity that few could fathom. Harrison's capricious decisions had long dictated the rhythm of Kyle's life, rendering him emotionally captive to the boy's fleeting desires. It was this very influence that made Harrison both indispensable and dangerously unpredictable. The horrifying secret unearthed in the labyrinth of deceit that Summer had carefully constructed, fate intervened in the form of an accidental discovery, a discovery that would set the stage for a cataclysmic public revelation. While pursuing her covert schemes to lure Kyle back into her orbit, Summer stumbled upon evidence that hinted at a horrifying secret about Harrison's true identity. As she pored over confidential documents, hidden laboratory reports, and fragmented records of clandestine meetings, a chilling truth began to emerge. Harrison was not, as everyone believed, the biological son of Kyle. The documents painted a disturbing picture. Harrison was, in fact, the son of Ashland, a revelation that had been meticulously concealed from the world. This discovery was not merely a case of mistaken paternity, it was the cornerstone of a much larger conspiracy. The evidence pointed to deliberate tampering. A forged DNA result that had been used to establish Kyle as Harrison's legal father. For years, Kyle had nurtured the belief that his bond with Harrison was rooted in blood and destiny. Now, that belief was under siege, and the foundation of his paternal identity was being called into question. Tara's calculated orchestration. As the layers of deception began to peel away, the mastermind behind the fraudulent paternity test emerged, Tara. A figure as enigmatic as she was determined, Tara had been the architect of this intricate ruse from the very beginning. With a cold and calculating mind, she had arranged every detail with the precision of a chess master. Her motivations were as complex as the plot itself. Once, in the past, Tara and Kyle had shared a love that burned brightly, an affair that had ended without traceable consequences, leaving behind only the echoes of what might have been. Though their romance had faded into oblivion, Tara's unresolved feelings had simmered beneath the surface, evolving into a twisted desire for both retribution and salvation. Tara's plan was as audacious as it was ruthless. She had foreseen that Harrison's future, as dictated by the circumstances of his birth, was fraught with uncertainty and despair. Believing that the boy was doomed to a life overshadowed by instability and misfortune, Tara sought to rescue him from an inevitable downfall. In her mind, aligning Harrison's fate with Kyle's, whose own vulnerabilities made him an ideal guardian, was a necessary, if morally dubious, intervention. To that end, Tara manipulated the evidence, forging a DNA result that would irrevocably bind Kyle to Harrison in the eyes of the law. In doing so, she not only secured a future for Harrison but also set in motion a chain of events that would eventually expose the extent of her deception. Summer's moment of reckoning. Armed with the damning evidence of the fraudulent DNA test, Summer now stood at the precipice of a moral crossroads. Her initial intentions had been clear: to reclaim Kyle and secure a future together. Yet, as she delved deeper into the layers of the conspiracy, a complex web of conflicting loyalties and hidden agendas emerged. The revelation of Harrison's true paternity was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it promised to shatter the carefully maintained facade of Kyle's perfect family life, potentially freeing him from the overbearing influence of a child whose every whim had dictated his emotional state. On the other hand, it threatened to transform Harrison from a cherished yet unpredictable presence into a tragic figure, a victim of adult machinations caught in a battle far beyond his control. Summer's plan was as daring as it was dangerous. She intended to publicly unveil the forged DNA results, exposing the web of lies that had entangled Kyle, Harrison, and Tara. The revelation would cast Harrison in a new light, not as the beloved, albeit volatile, son who held the key to Kyle's heart, but as an innocent casualty in a saga of deception and betrayal. The public, already abuzz with whispers of scandal, would soon be confronted with a narrative that challenged every assumption they held about the family's pristine image. The climactic confrontation, the day of reckoning, arrived on a stormy afternoon, the skies mirroring the turbulent emotions coursing through the hearts of those involved. In a packed press conference held in a grand, imposing hall, Summer stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of triumph and malice. Clutched in her hand were the documents that would change everything, a dossier of incontrovertible evidence that detailed the forged DNA test, the clandestine meetings, and the meticulous planning that had led to Kyle's unwitting role as a father. As the cameras flashed and reporters leaned in, Summer began her exposé with deliberate calm. Each revelation was punctuated by a pause that allowed the weight of her words to sink in. For too long, she declared, the truth has been hidden behind a veneer of lies. Today, I reveal the facts that have been deliberately obscured, a truth that will redefine the very fabric of our family. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the audience as she displayed the forged lab reports, the signatures of those involved, and a timeline that traced the conspiracy back to its origin. Across the room, Kyle's face drained of color. The man who had once prided himself on his integrity and the unshakable bond he shared with Harrison now found himself at a crossroads. The revelation struck him with the force of a tidal wave, years of unquestioning trust, of indulgence in Harrison's whims, now crumbling under the weight of betrayal. In that moment, Kyle's heart was torn between his deep paternal love and the crushing realization that his world had been built on a foundation of deceit. Harrison, the very embodiment of innocence and caprice, was thrust into the center of the maelstrom. His eyes, wide with confusion and hurt, scanned the room as if searching for an anchor in a sea of hostility. The public portrayal of him shifted in an instant, from the mischievous boy who controlled the dynamics of his father's relationships to a pitiable victim ensnared by the machinations of adults who had lost sight of morality. The question now loomed large: would Kyle, in the wake of this shattering truth, be able to let go of the lies and embrace the genuine bond he once believed he shared with his son? The heart-wrenching dilemma for Kyle, the revelation was more than just a scandal, it was a personal affront that forced him to re-examine every decision he had made. Harrison had always been his weakness, a constant reminder of the delicate balance between love and responsibility. Every relationship he had pursued, every partner who had come and gone, had been subject to the unyielding judgment of Harrison's preferences. Now, that very influence, which had once provided comfort and direction, was revealed to be a byproduct of manipulation and deceit. Kyle's inner turmoil was palpable. In the quiet moments that followed the public announcement, he was forced to confront the duality of his existence. On one side lay the unconditional love he felt for Harrison, a love that had sustained him through countless trials and heartaches. On the other side loomed the bitter sting of betrayal, the realization that the man he had trusted to guide his fate had been complicit in a conspiracy that robbed him of his autonomy. Would he choose to cast aside the fabricated bonds that had defined his life for so long? Or would he, in an act of profound forgiveness, embrace the flawed but innocent soul of Harrison, acknowledging that sometimes the most painful truths pave the way for redemption? The inevitable reckoning. In the wake of Summer's explosive revelation, the stage was set for an inevitable reckoning. The media frenzy was relentless. Newspapers splashed headlines about the DNA scandal, and talk shows debated the ethics and implications of Tara's calculated deception. Public opinion wavered between outrage and sympathy, with many condemning the adults who had treated a young life as a pawn in their bitter power plays. The narrative was clear: Harrison was not a willing conspirator, but rather an innocent bystander in a saga of greed, ambition, and misplaced love. Meanwhile, Summer's role in the unfolding drama was met with mixed reactions. While some lauded her for unveiling the truth, others saw her actions as nothing more than a bid to manipulate emotions and reclaim a lost love at any cost. To many, Summer's relentless pursuit of Kyle was a stark reminder that ambition, when untethered from morality, can lead even the most formidable individuals down a path of ruin. Her declaration, "I reveal the truth, regardless of the consequences," echoed as both a promise of accountability and a challenge to the established order. The question of forgiveness now, with the dust of deception swirling in the aftermath of the revelation, a question hung heavy in the air: would Kyle be able to forgive and move forward? As he grappled with the shattering impact of the truth, the future of his relationship with Harrison, and indeed his own identity as a father, remained uncertain. The boy, once a source of unbridled joy and the whimsical ruler of Kyle's heart, now carried the heavy burden of being the innocent victim of an elaborate scheme. The prospect of forgiveness was not a simple choice. It was an emotional odyssey fraught with the risk of further heartache and the potential loss of trust that could never be fully restored. In the quiet solitude of his private reflections, Kyle found himself haunted by memories of better times, moments of genuine love and connection that had defined his early days with Harrison. Yet, every cherished memory was now tainted by the knowledge of betrayal. Could he ever return to a state of innocence, or would the scars of this deception mark him forever? The answer lay not only in the depths of his heart but also in the unfolding consequences of Summer's treacherous act. Would the public revelation force him to confront the truth and dismantle the illusion that had long held him captive? Or would the pain prove too great, leading him to sever ties with the past and forsake the boy he once adored? The price of betrayal and the fate of a family. As the days passed and the shockwaves of the revelation rippled through every facet of their intertwined lives, one undeniable truth emerged: in the world of high-stakes secrets and calculated deceptions, every action has a price. Summer's calculated gambit, though executed with cold precision, had set in motion a cascade of events that threatened to dismantle the very foundations of a family built on fragile loyalties and unspoken debts. Tara's role in the deception would not remain hidden for long. The web she had spun, designed to save Harrison from a bleak future, now ensnared her in a trap of her own making. The revelation of the forged DNA result not only cast doubt on Kyle's paternal claims but also forced Tara to confront the moral repercussions of her actions. In a cruel twist of fate, the very scheme meant to protect one life had sown the seeds of ruin for many. And amidst the chaos, Summer's own culpability loomed large. Accused by many of being a merciless manipulator, she was now facing the consequences of unleashing a truth that would irreparably scar the lives of those she sought to control. A final crossroads standing at the intersection of love, betrayal, and redemption, Kyle was left with the most agonizing decision of his life. With the public eye scrutinizing his every move and the shattered remnants of trust scattered around him, he faced a stark choice: to embrace the truth and, with it, the possibility of healing, or to retreat into a fortress of denial, sacrificing the innocence of a young life for the sake of his own pride? The answer was far from simple. Harrison, despite being at the center of this maelstrom, remained a symbol of vulnerability, a reminder that sometimes, those who seem the most innocent bear the deepest wounds inflicted by the sins of others. Would Kyle, whose heart had long been dominated by Harrison's capricious whims, find it within himself to forgive this little soul for the deceit that had defined his existence? Or would the relentless force of betrayal push him to sever the ties that had once given his life meaning? As the final chapters of this unfolding drama were yet to be written, one thing remained clear: the repercussions of Summer's treachery would be felt for years to come. In the world of glamour and guile, where every whispered secret and every calculated lie carries the potential for devastation, the truth, no matter how painful, always has a way of emerging from the shadows. In the end, only time would reveal whether Kyle's love for Harrison could transcend the betrayal or if the weight of deception would prove too heavy to bear. One certainty, however, lingered in the hearts of all who had witnessed this drama: in the relentless pursuit of power and passion, even the most cunning of schemes eventually exact their own price. And for Summer, the woman who had manipulated fate with such ruthless ambition, there could be no escaping the inevitable reckoning. She was, after all, a bastard of her own making, a traitor to trust, and one who must ultimately face the consequences of her actions. Will Kyle find the strength to forgive and rebuild the bonds of a family torn apart by lies? Or will the devastating revelations force him to abandon everything he once held dear? In the world of deceit, where love is as fragile as glass and betrayal cuts deep, the final verdict remains shrouded in uncertainty, a reminder that even in the brightest light, the darkest secrets refuse to stay hidden.